Hey guys, welcome back to Total Tactics Football. It's Fran here, and of course we're going to start the live stream a little bit early. I can already see a few comments in chat, so let's just respond to them quickly. So O says, should I swap Ings to Antonio to save 0.5, not 0.4 anyway? I will do it after game week 3 or do it now. Um, I think you can probably hold on to Ings for one more game week, but if you think that Antonio is the type of player that you will go on in the future and keep, then I can see you swapping to Antonio now. Simply put, I think Antonio has 3 fantastic fixtures to go, and I don't think Aston Villa looked that great starting off in their game versus Watford. And one of the key things for Aston Villa is, Leon Bailey actually had a really good game as a substitute, but I think he needs some more time to improve, and he needs some more time to get match fitness so that he can start. And for me, Buendia had a rather poor game, and it seemed like Dean Smith, I think, I just thought he made quite an error in terms of wanting to change his tactics so abruptly. And I don't think there was enough time really to adjust, obviously, with the Danny Ings transfer kind of coming in so late in the transfer window, right? So that's kind of how I felt about that. I think Antonio is definitely the better piece than Ings, but I would also like to know who is your second striker as well. 1992 Hip Hop JJ says, would you ever look to bring in KDB or Lukaku? Absolutely. I mean, I need to watch Lukaku a bit more. I need to watch him versus Arsenal for sure. I'll be watching that whole game, and I'll let you guys know how I feel about Lukaku and whether we can pounce on him. But I will say, Lukaku's record against some of the greatest teams hasn't been 100% amazing. In fact, I think when he was playing in Serie A, he was not very often scoring versus huge sides. Gundagan to Rafinha tonight before price rise. Yeah, I mean, let's have a look at the price rises, right, together. So Simicast is obviously getting a price rise. Antonio is getting a price rise. So yeah, if you want to get him in, get him now. Alonso getting a price rise is interesting to me because I mean, you probably have one more week where you get to punt Alonso and maybe Chilwell finds his way back into the team. Pretty happy about the Benrama price rise. Dennis is interesting because I think he had a knock, but he's obviously going to be an option to kind of go into a 5.0 forward as a real bench option, right? Not someone like Obafemi who's not going to play or probably going to be loaned out. Who do you think is going for a price rise? Or is it Gundagan that you think that is going for like a price decrease? Do I plan on changing anyone? Not right now, erectile dysfunction. Good to see you back, by the way. I think I remember seeing you around in the Euros. You got 104 points on Mane, Greenwood, and a mil in the bank. Well, that's pretty amazing. Should I bring in Pogba since Greenwood only got one shot in the box, or Salah for Mane? Honestly, if you've got the money to go into Salah, I would do that for sure. Because, like, for me, Greenwood had, yes, I know he only got one shot in the box, but, when you watch the game, he probably could have had 1 or 2 assists. Yeah, so thanks. I mean, the good memory helps with giving you guys fantasy advice, right? No, I'm kidding. For game week 3, shall I switch Mahrez and Greenwood to Son and Rafinha? I wouldn't do. Okay, yeah, sorry. So, okay, yeah, you're holding on to transfers. I think that's a reasonable move to think about in the future. I think it makes sense. Hey, mate, I always forget how tricky these price changes are. I'm happy with my team, but if Dennis, Benrama, and Son all look like moving up, then I might move Barnes to Sar/Benrama. So I think Sar is not going to hit a price rise as early as someone like Benrama. So I think if you want to chase Benrama, now is the time, because even though the Leicester fixture is a bit tough, they're playing Leicester at home, which is fantastic. And then they get to play versus Crystal Palace and Southampton, Ahmed's texting me. I'm just going to close that chat, sorry. I've got a little bit of sneak peek of the cheat sheet. That's going to be a future YouTube video, guys. Hello, Fran. I have Pepe. Will you advise me to move him out for some other midfielders? Hey, Ofek, how are you doing? Rio, yeah, and just going back to you, Rio, I think it makes sense to move from Pepe. I think, the only reason I would have ever looked at Pepe was for game week 4, right? And simply put, if he's not playing, like, it just didn't make sense to go for a 1 week punt. So I think, yeah, it makes sense. If you were going for 1 week punt, then it's kind of ended. My main issue is that 7.5 is a tricky category now. We have Gundagan, who's injured. We have Greenwood, who could be moving positions. And I don't think Greenwood is going to be benched. I think he could move to the right-hand side, and I think Sancho can move to the left, and Cavani can come in at striker. Excuse me, sorry. But I think Greenwood moving to the right could diminish his goal scoring potential and his just general potential to get FPL points. So that's my slight worry. I still think you probably have 1 or 2 weeks more of good Greenwood points and good Greenwood fixtures. So you can try to capitalize on that if you feel that Pepe is not going to do very well. Obviously, he's playing versus Chelsea and City. So I think the punt for Greenwood is interesting. If you want to start downgrading Pepe into someone who's even cheaper, someone who's prone to get a price rise, thank you. You actually picked a very good team for Game Week 1. I think I did, actually. As I said, Michael Keane absolutely ruined me. Please, if you guys didn't watch the Everton-Southampton game, please find out how Southampton scored in that game, and you can tell me why I didn't get 117 points. I'm just kidding. Gamil says, "Hey mate, I think I responded to that. So yeah, I think moving Barnes is a good shout. I would say Benrama is a better shout for now because I just think West Ham is a more complete side. I don't think Watford are going to play such a kind of topsy-turvy side like Aston Villa. I thought Aston Villa really struggled by changing their formation and trying to kind of press deeply, and that really struggled. Thanks. Martinez, Foster, Simicast, Bertrand, Shaw. Interesting pick with Bertrand. Veltman, Digne, Salah, Bruno San, Benrama, Buendia, Ings, Tony, Scarlett. So Ings to Antonio to say 0.5 tonight. Yeah, why not? Awesome. I'm glad you picked Benrama. Honestly, I was so high on Benrama in the preseason. I was watching West Ham's games. I was actually watching all the preseason games just to get a picture of what I thought were good fantasy picks for you guys. And for me, Benrama was literally the third place. I picked him before Son in my team. Imagine that. Who is the GOAT of football for you? Tough question. I don't really have an answer. A little bit crazy. I'm a Real Madrid fan, and I think I would say the GOAT of football is probably going to be Messi. But I can happily concede that there were players before Messi that were fantastic, and I think comparing across generations is very stupid. Because simply put, if let's say someone like Pele or Maradona got to play with modern science and modern recovery methods and got all the benefits that football players play today, I think they would be fantastic players. Evening FPL Robbie Ducky, how are you doing? JJ Byrne, are you making any transfers this week? My plan is to not do transfers this week. If I wanted to knee jerk, it would be to knee jerk Mr. Luka Dean here. But I think Luka Dean still has the opportunity to do well versus Leeds. I am a bit worried about that. My genuine plan, right, is something like maybe I will go for Tanganga next week, a double fixture, and then maybe move away from Simicas in preparation for the Chelsea game. Because if you look at my team, Game Week 3, Dean has a good game, but I think I will try to move away from him even though he's playing Brighton. I probably have to go for a 5.0 defender, and I probably won't be playing Simicas anymore. Simicast will probably give me that kind of 0.1 in the bank, and then I'll probably have the opportunity to move into someone like Tanganga. Now, the only hope I have is that Tanganga is probably going to be fixed. It seems like Doherty will probably play in the European Conference League match, so that's interesting. And then a 5.0 defender is something I have to think about a little bit more deeply. I'm not that interested in Dunk right now, but if you kind of look at my list here in terms of the way I've rated defenders, I mean, there are a couple interesting options. Obviously, Reguilon is now in this list. I will have to kind of have a little bit of a deeper thought about it. Maybe I go Reguilon and then a different 4.5. But a lot of options there. I think even a Brentford defense is quite interesting. Which team do I support? I support Real Madrid, but I would say I am probably the most unbiased football fan you'll see. Should I keep hold of Grealish for the Norwich game? I thought Grealish had a decent opener versus Spurs, and then Tanganga had a wonderful game defending him. I can't really see Max Aarons repeating the same performance. I thought Max Aarons defended Georgios Tsimikas really well, or Konstantinos. But I think Grealish can still kind of run riot versus Norwich. That's just my genuine opinion. I still love Benrama. Obviously, if you want to catch the price rise for Benrama and you want to go Benrama anyways, then please go ahead and do so if you don't have Benrama. You really wanted to keep Barnes for Norwich in Game Week 3, but you're tempted. Yeah, so that's the tricky thing. I think Barnes had a rather poor game, but it seems like Leicester play much better in the 4-back formation, and he fits like a glove, in the left wing spot. Barnes, Gundo to Son and Benrama. If you're taking a -4 for that, bit of a risk, but I think I would say hold on a little bit. Maybe do Barnes to Benrama or Gundagan to Benrama first, because we need to still kind of confirm what exactly is going on with Gundagan. But maybe you can drop one of those players for Benrama before he gets his price rise. Any other questions? Yeah, so that's my kind of general opinion right now, guys. If we go back to the price rises really quickly, I mean, Benrama's the one that we really need to keep our eyes on. Tsimikas, we all probably have. Antonio, we all probably have. And if you don't have him, I think you need to find a way to get him because let's look at Antonio's fixtures. I mean, simply put, they're wonderful, right? We're talking about Crystal Palace and Southampton. I wouldn't say Crystal Palace is a terrible defensive side, but West Ham get to play them at home, which is a great fixture. And then Southampton, honestly, they looked terrible. Seriously, they looked really terrible. I'm a bit worried about them. I think we should attack Southampton at all costs. In fact, I wouldn't even be opposed to getting a West Ham defender to kind of cash into those match days, right? Because basically what I'm thinking is that I can go a little bit greedy and maybe go Soufal Tanganga game week 3 if Digne unimpresses me again. Digne had a very good offensive performance, but you know, it wasn't exactly the same in terms of defense, because I think even though Southampton can't attack very well, I'm worried about sides that can kind of cause mistakes in transition. Especially because now if Digne is pushing to left wing and Alan is covering and sometimes at left back, there could be a few gaps to exploit whenever it's an attack in the structure that they showed in the second half. Barnes or Maddison or Sarr? I think Maddison's the worst out of all three of the players that you've picked. Do you think Ings can be replaced by DC? Yes, 100% Ings can be replaced by DCL or Richarlison. I would actually prefer DCL. I know Richarlison got 1 goal with 1 assist, but I thought most of the chances built by the Everton team were aimed at DCL, and he missed most of his headers, didn't get the opportunity to really score in the game week, but I think he has better chances of doing that in the future weeks to come. Dennis, yes. So Watford have a great home record at 5M, looks a bargain. It's an interesting thing, right? Because obviously Dennis is about to hit a price rise. I don't really have the capacity to go for Dennis right now. I don't really see the need to go for Dennis right now. But if you have capacity in your team to go for Dennis, then feel free to do so. Thank you so much, Erectile Dysfunction. Honestly, it's really nice receiving the support from you guys. Like for example, the video I put out today, it kind of blew up, so I'm really thankful for all of you guys and your support as well. I hope you guys are doing well in terms of fantasy so far. Any other questions that you guys have right now in terms of it seems like I think the general question that people have is, you know, should I move out of Barnes or Mahrez and Gundagan? And I think the truth is Barnes, I think you might want to move, but I think Man City players you might want to hold and see what happens. Obviously with Gundagan, you need to have a look at whether he really is injured, because I wouldn't say Pep is a liar, but I would say sometimes he has the ability to overdress or underdress certain things. Thank you, Art Ed, as well. Appreciate you as well commenting on many of our videos. It's really nice. Like if you guys comment on the videos, it's really appreciated because I think it helps the algorithm a lot. Liking the videos helps as well, and you obviously stay subscribed and you'll definitely get good content. So I mean, as I say, like I will be revealing this cheat sheet tomorrow. I'll be making a video based on this cheat sheet. So you guys can definitely wait and see. It will kind of be my full opinion on, once again, all the best picks, with some new picks that I kind of included based on some additional interesting things that I saw in match day 1. So I will also kind of probably, do you guys think it would be better if I also illustrated? So for example, like if I have reduced, let's say, Martinez's priority, do you think it would be interesting if I kind of described him as a fall, like a price faller, and maybe like, let's say someone like who's a price riser? Who's a price riser? I think my opinion on Greenwood changed a bit because I can still see him being very interesting. So I would say that he's a price riser. Do you guys think that would be helpful in terms of the analysis as well? Is Lukaku worth getting? Not for the Arsenal game, in my opinion. I think you kind of want to just see what happens with how Chelsea play with Lukaku, and whether you think he will do well, because ultimately Chelsea has some very tough fixtures, you know. Thank you, Rio. Yep. Okay, definitely, Rio. I'll make sure that that's included. Salah to De Bruyne for only 1 game. I don't really think it makes sense, guys. Honestly, you don't really want to be changing Salah too often. Because the thing is, something could happen in the game week, right, that you didn't expect. And if your team was kind of built for the kind of like game week 1 to game week 4 portion of the game weeks and the fixtures, you know, you need to still leave yourself a little bit of room and a little bit of space to address some kind of panic situations. You know, someone else in your squad could be injured. Things can come up. It's kind of going for a one game punt is a tough one. I think also Kevin De Bruyne, I'm not sure if he's actually back to full fitness. So that's my kind of question mark on him. And the same thing, so I will be watching Kevin De Bruyne and Lukaku this weekend, guys, and I will kind of make my thoughts on them and whether, you know, they're more interesting. But simply put, like, Salah and Bruno have outscored everyone in FPL within the last 2 years, and there's no reason to kind of sway away from them, you know. They've shown us such great performances. It's not because someone had a great performance that they'll stop performing. You have to kind of look at who's consistent, and to be honest, Salah and Bruno have done very well. You got 113 points and took a hit to get Mbeumo instead of Soufal. When you say why, do you mean, are you questioning yourself or are you asking me? Sorry. Who do you think will win the Prem? Tough question. I think probably Man City still. I think they're the team that can hit the kind of hottest streak, and it depends on the Kane transfer as well. In terms of your question, Ryan, on my thoughts on Mr. Harvey Barnes, I think he's a great player. He passes the eye test for me, but simply put, I think there might be more interesting options at the 6.0 and the 6.5 price range. In terms of the person who was asking the question about Mbeumo and Soufal, if you can just clarify your question, then I could probably help you, or if you want me to kind of comment on you taking a hit. I mean, I think it makes sense, right? Because ultimately, West Ham don't have the greatest defense. We know Soufal gets assists, but Mbeumo has very great out of position potential, and I can understand why you might have done that. You know, I plan to actually, yeah. For example, Mbeumo is a price riser for me over here. I listed him as probably the best 5.5 option, but watching Brentford last week, I was very impressed, and you know, his clinicalness aside, I think he's got great opportunities to really attack some of the fixtures that they have, and let's have a look at those fixtures together, really. You know, we're talking about Crystal Palace, which should be a very nice fixture for him. Aston Villa should be a very nice fixture. Brighton should be a very nice fixture as well. Brighton maybe not so much. I think Brighton are a bit more solid than Aston Villa right now, just in terms of the eye test. And then Wolves, I actually think, look like a decent side this year. I know they just lost to Leicester, but they performed quite well, in my opinion. Questioning myself mostly, but no, I think it makes sense, honestly. I think you might have maybe pulled the trigger a bit early, but I think it's a reasonable move, to be honest. But I do think Soufal has opportunities to get 1 or 2 clean sheets, honestly, just because simply the teams that he's facing are pretty poor. But game week 2, I think it's better to have Mbeumo. That's just my genuine opinion. One last question on Barnes to Benrama. Do you reckon Benrama gets dropped if Lingard signs? I don't think Lingard is going to sign for West Ham. And I feel like West Ham have larger issues, right? West Ham are probably going to set their priorities around getting a centre-back. The news recently has been that, you know, Kurt Zouma continues to be rumoured with West Ham, and I think that's their priority signing. I haven't really heard any news about Lingard to West Ham, personally. Mbeumo and Wilson, or Tony and Benrama. I like Tony and Benrama personally. It's a tough one there because I think I like Mbeumo and Benrama more, ironically. I think those two are the more interesting players. Barnes or Greenwood, who is fit for game week 2? I think Greenwood, for sure. I really felt sorry for Wolves. I only watched the second half. So yeah, I mean, Wolves really stepped it up in the second half, but you also have to kind of see what happened with Leicester. They changed their formation. I think they started to stink a bit more in terms of, how they were playing. And do you think Torres will start this week? By Torres, I mean, yes, I guess Ferran Torres. You could probably keep Barnes to reassess, but I do think, you know, West Ham really is a tough fixture for Leicester, no jokes. I think Torres could start. I think it's a tough one with Man City because I don't think anyone had a truly exceptional performance versus Spurs, and I can see Pep really rotating. My captain for game week 2 is probably going to be Bruno, guys. I think. Right now, it's set on Bruno. I will let you guys know exactly what I do with the team. If I knee jerk panic sell Dean, I'll let you know as well. We'll be doing a deadline stream, but for now, I think I'm pretty set on no transfers and going for a Bruno captaincy because I think I really like attacking Southampton right now, even though Southampton have the home advantage. Simcast to Ailing post game week 3. I think that's a very reasonable option. But what do you mean by post game week 3 though? Because I think Simicast. Do you mean by game week 3? Because obviously game week 3, Simicast plays Chelsea. So I guess you mean pre game week 3. Yeah, I like Bruno as the captain as well, Harry. Rudiger or Pereira. Chelsea obviously looking very solid and in defense too. So it's mostly a secure clean sheet. But then there's Leicester that are doing pretty well, and Pereira takes the creativity there. Obviously, yeah, you're completely right. Pereira pretty much plays like a right winger at times for that team. But I do think Pereira has very tough fixtures. Whereas even though Chelsea have tough fixtures, they could really get clean sheets versus some of the teams that they're facing. I think they can get a clean sheet versus Arsenal. I think they can get a clean sheet versus Aston Villa, and that's 2 out of 3 game weeks already. Tottenham game, questionable. But then when we look at Pereira, I think he has 2 tough fixtures as well, and then probably a potential for a clean sheet here in Norwich. But then we're also saying that he could attack, let's say, West Ham and Norwich quite hard. So maybe Pereira could be a bit more of a differential, but I think it would be quite aggressive to go for Pereira. Do you think I should move Mahrez for Greenwood and hold Barnes for another week against Norwich? I have 1 mil in the bank, so I could. I mean, so the thing is, if you want to hold a player for Norwich, then why are you moving Mahrez for Greenwood? That's probably my opinion on that. I have 1 mil in the bank, so I could move Barnes to Greenwood instead. I'm a bit more tempted to go. Yeah, the issue with Mahrez for me is I was never too interested in getting him in my team, so I can't say I was a huge fan of him. Yeah, my rank last season was 56,000, so it was also my first season playing. I made a lot of mistakes in terms of I think I picked a good value players, but my chips were awful. My chips were awful. I remember I had a bench boost of 7 points, and I also didn't know double game weeks existed. How many points did I get this week? I got 113 points, so I'm ranked 26,000 right now. I hope you're doing well, Patrick. How are you doing yourself? Yeah, I think Mahrez is a bit of a hit or miss, so that's why like my priority was always getting Son over Mahrez no matter what. And then I kind of like talisman theory, which is why I don't like Man City very much. I pretty much guarantee Salah will get a handshake against Burnley. Going to the games, I feel like it's written in the stars. Liverpool fan, are we? How great is it having fans back at matches, by the way, but he's my captain. That's awesome, yeah. I mean, I think Salah will do well. I think the person who wants to change Salah for KDB, I think KDB could have a great match, versus Norwich. But simply put, I just don't think it's worth taking Salah out of your team. Honestly, that's just what it comes down to. Who would you advise getting ready for Barnes? If you're Greenwood already, I'd probably say Benrama. Basically, just to let you know, in my selection thought process, I actually rather like even disregarding cash, I prefer to getting Benrama in my team than Barnes. I'm a City fan and I chose Son over Mahrez. I just knew it was coming. Good choice. I think we are in close competition. Both started last season with good ranks, and you got 1 more point than me to start the season. That's awesome, Harry. To be honest, I mean, I last season didn't do much research on fantasy because I didn't really know how the chips work. So I think, and I also didn't know much about fixture lists and kind of, I understood how to plan, but I didn't really know that double game weeks existed. So, I think I triple captained Kane on a single game week, and then I I free hit immediately on the first blank game week, which was terrible. I think most people tried to do that, and it was quite a big failure. And then I bench boosted for 7 points, which was I left I think 314 points on the bench last season, which was pretty terrible. Do you think Leicester now will be even more solid defensively with Vestergaard, or is he a red card magnet? I don't think he's a red card magnet. I think they will be pretty solid defensively. Will he be the solution to Leicester corners? When you say Leicester corners, do you mean defending set pieces, or do you mean attacking set pieces? Abdul Rahman, thank you very much as well. Thanks for the love. Kiet says, what do you think about Salah to Son in game week 3? The thing is, right, you're only getting Son for 2 game weeks, and Salah really only has 1 bad match. So the question is, like, is it worth it, that kind of transfer? I'm new to this. Do you get one free transfer each week? Yes, you do, the British gamer. You can only save up to two free transfers. So let's say if you don't use your free transfer this week, you'll stack up two for the next week, but you can't stack up for more than two. So you need to make sure that you spend a transfer in the following week. Awesome, Patrick. Got 98 points yourself. Well done. Yassine says, hi, great work on the channel. So in game week 2, Smith Rowe to Sarr. I think that is what you're going to do. If you don't have Benrama, then I think Sarr makes a lot of sense. Even Mbeumo is really interesting at 5.5 if you don't have him. You have 2.5 in the bank and want to change Greenwood to Son. What do you think? It was on my mind from the preseason. I think it makes sense. I actually, in my live stream, I said that I might be going Greenwood and then saving 2.5 million in the bank just like you, but I actually decided that I think Son will score versus Man City, and fortunately for me, it did happen. Are you still looking at a Liverpool triple up once Tsimikas leaves the team? Honestly, no, because I think by the time Tsimikas leaves the team, I think Jota will leave the team as well. Did I miss any comments? Sorry. No, I think that's fine. I have Gundagan. Should I... Sorry about that. You think the next 3 trades, two of them next week, Tony to Dennis, Barnes to Benrama, and Greenwood to Son, if Barnes and Tony continue to disappoint? I think those are very interesting picks, to be honest. Those are very interesting picks. I kind of like that, Braden, yeah. Hold Rafinha despite quiet game in World Cup qual. So yeah, so that's the issue with the World Cup qualifier thing with Rafinha. We might be losing him for game week 4, so it could be an opportunity to swap away from Rafinha. But the thing is, of course, after game week 4, I think Rafinha's fixtures start to look a little bit more healthy, right? Do you have a league code? I only found this channel today. Yes, we do have a league code. It's at the bottom right corner of my screen. It's LPLHGR. So let me just type that in the comments. Would you switch out Rafinha if you had the same team, but Rafinha instead of Benrama at the start? Tough question. I think Rafinha has a bit of a tougher match than Benrama next week. I think Rafinha had a pretty poor game, and then if you're considering as well the game week 4 potential isolation issues that would kind of surround Rafinha, then maybe it might make sense to capitalize on the price rise, because if you look at the price rise, Benrama's pretty close to hitting his target. We could very well see Benrama increase in price by tomorrow or tonight. Let me see if I've missed any questions. Opinion on Canos. I swapped Rafinha out for him due to fixtures and how well he attacked against Arsenal. I mean, I don't think Canos had too many opportunities. I think he had 2 kind of good goal-scoring opportunities, but my thing is that I kind of like Mbeumo a little bit more than Canos, because Canos still starts with the right wing-back position. He kind of moves a little bit to the left wing position at times in transition. But I still think Mbeumo has more attacking opportunities in this kind of 3-5-2 structure that they have, which basically means that they suddenly start to attack in a 4-4-2 formation. Would you switch out? Yep, sorry, I think I've responded to that. Leicester attacking corners. I remember when they took out about 15 corners without any real threat. No, that's a fair point. I think Vestergaard is of course a huge hulking giant of a person. Are you kind of suggesting whether he would be interesting to pick up? It might be also interesting to look at who Leicester have on corners as well. And yeah, Ryan, you're right about the red list thing. So that would be a tricky situation for Rafinha. Should I swap Gundagan for Greenwood or downgrade to Benrama? I still think Greenwood has good potential for the next 2 game weeks. But if you don't mind downgrading to Benrama now, you could probably capitalize on his price rise. Could trading Trent to Roussillon be a potential move to get the likes of Kane down the track? Is Roussillon in a team now? Okay. City will smash Norwich. I don't have anyone. I mean, the thing is, I worried about that too, right? But you can't make sure that your team covers absolutely every good fixture. Ultimately, not every single Premier team is a good team, and ultimately, every team or player that you cover isn't going to cover every fixture. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. You probably had a plan ahead, a reason why you didn't have Man City players. Try to stick to that plan unless something has gone crazily wrong. Mahrez or Son. I mean, I picked Son for my own team. That's why you can see I have no bench, so that I could prioritize going for Son. Is Sarr close to a price rise? He's pretty close to a price rise. So I mean, with the sorry about the player data is out of date. So with the price rise thing, it's more about if they hit this 100 target, it means they're 100% certain for a price rise. If they're anywhere near 100, it means that they're very likely to hit a price rise. So today we're probably talking about, you know, these kind of 4 players potentially hitting a price rise on top of Tsimikas as well. You know, Alonso is a bit of a trap, but I think there might be one more good week of Alonso that we can get out of him if you already have Alonso in your team. Sarr is pretty close to a price rise regardless, though. He had a very good game versus Aston Villa, so my eye test definitely thought, you know, he did fantastic. Thank you, Alex. What's your plan with Tsimikas when Robbo's back? My plan is to probably change Digne and Tsimikas into a 4.5 and 5.0 defender respectively. That's probably my plan. Dr. Slim, I think I've responded to you, right? I think, yeah. Barnes is a hard trade next week as he has Norwich, GW3. I mean, but the thing, yeah, that's the thing, right? But the thing is, I think your question is more going to be, do you think Benrama has better opportunities to attack? Because, for example, let's say if you transfer Barnes to Benrama, you're not really just giving up Norwich game week 3. You're potentially arguably saying that you're giving up Benrama versus Southampton and Crystal Palace. Tanganga for White this week. I think that could be very interesting, honestly. Is it okay for me to ask you about my current team? Yes, absolutely, Patrick. Feel free to ask ahead. Some of you guys have deleted your message, but just let me know if you guys had any questions there. Yeah, I can say that, you know, for next week coming ahead, we'll be looking at this kind of. I'll be detailing exactly why I have the kind of price rise and this kind of rise and fall sheet, and all the kind of interesting players that I thought interested me in game week 1. One of the old players from last season that did really well, of course, was Souchet. I mean, I still think he's a massive differential. I mean, I like Benrama a lot more, but, you know, of course, I just can't deny the fact that he has a general talent for rebounding and having a sense for how to react to, let's say, his teammates peppering the enemy team with shots, or even sensing the moment with set pieces. Just gonna refresh the price change predictor. Nothing too crazy has happened. Let's have a look at some trends as well. So it seems like everyone's kind of going into Antonio. Strangely, a lot of players who've gone for Bamford have gone straight into Antonio. But I thought, you know, it was so clear that Leeds had a really good fixture 1. So this is clearly a bit of knee-jerking going on. Iheanacho, as we knew, was a bit of a risky pick because I think we knew Barnes would probably start over him. Cavani as well. Surprised people started with him. A lot of people started with Kane, which is also surprising. One thing I will have to tell you guys as well is make sure that whenever people kind of post news about, you know, Kane, like I saw a lot of news that Kane was going to be fit for game week 1, and when I actually read the post-match press conference or the press conference of Nuno, you know, he didn't say anything about Kane being fit. He just said that the players who trained would be fit, and it was pretty obvious it was a vague answer. So try not to get tricked into things like that as well in the future. I'm sure most of you guys do all your research as well, so that's fine. Going to DCL probably makes sense. A lot of us thought he would have been risky injured. I actually thought DCL probably had better chances to score, and if we probably look at the statistics, the expected goals will probably reflect the same thing too. If we look at expected goals, so yeah, you can see expected goals really benefited Calvert-Lewin 1.6 for the first game week. I thought that this Everton side clearly still attacks around him, so it still makes sense to go for Calvert-Lewin. Richarlison obviously has had a price rise. I still think that this is a bit of a bait, and this is definitely just knee-jerking. Surprised people have gone for St. Maximin. That's pretty crazy to me. Dennis I can somewhat understand, although moving Kane to Dennis is also interesting. Lukaku is very reasonable, because now I think people think that Arsenal are a worse side than they expected. Questionable, but yeah. How much do you think Benrama will go up this week? My first year playing, I think he'll only go up by 0.1 million, so nothing more than that. I don't think Sarr will be rising in price tonight. Gilmore is still good as a 4.5 player who will get 2 points a week. Nothing more, nothing less, in my opinion. Maybe 1 assist here and there. Should I start Veltman or Benrama? I mean, definitely Benrama, please. I just think like Benrama's in the form of his life, and I would rather have him potentially pop off than Veltman. Let's say give me. Hmm. I mean, yeah, Veltman could get you a clean sheet, and that would be 6 points. But ultimately, you don't know exactly what happened. He could have missed training, and maybe Duffy starts again the next week. It's not really worth it for me. My biggest fear is the City Hall next week, but I realize that most players have used their 100 mil up in my domestic league, so they won't be able to get the nailed on City players for that. But the thing is, you could fear that City Hall next week, but who is going to haul for City? I honestly couldn't answer you that question with a serious answer and with 100% comfort. That's my issue with I can expect that City will haul, but I just don't know how you can access that haul, and then what do you do after that? There are some other players who have nice fixtures in consecutive weeks that you probably want to address, and that's why people were okay not having City players for game week 2, just like me. For example, a lot of players went for City players because they thought they would attack Spurs pretty well, but I didn't think that was the case. DCL has really nice fixtures. Absolutely, he does. Do you plan to replace Ings before game week 4? Potentially, yes. I think that is something that I will be looking at as well. If I'm still very interested in having Digne in my team, then the way I probably address things is to move Ings out of the way and find someone who interests me at the striker position. It might even mean that I change my team drastically around formation wise, but we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated. But for now, I still think Ings has a nice little fixture coming in. And if Aston Villa disappoint me in terms of the eye test, then I'll have to move away from Ings. Probably in anticipation of the terrible kind of fixtures that loom ahead. Did Tanganga play more defensive or offensive in right back? He played much more defensive, but the thing is, you have to realize that he was playing versus Jack Grealish and he was playing versus Raheem Sterling. So there's a clear reason why he was defensive that game. But I still think he has potential to attack. In the preseason game versus Arsenal, he actually got an assist. He passed to Heung-min Son and he got an assist there. And completely bossed Pablo Mari. Norwich fixtures look frightful. 100% correct. Braden says, how much do you think Benron will go? I think I've responded to that one. Gray 5.5 Everton starts. Gray's interesting, but I think for me, him and Townsend play a very supportive role for the team. For me, the only true assets for Everton are going to be Digne. I would actually say probably DCL and then Digne and then Richarlison in that order. Even though, of course, Richarlison got the most points in Game Week 1. I still think DCL is the best asset. Still hot on Brentford defenders. I'm quite interested in them. I thought organizationally they looked very interesting. And ultimately, Brentford have some really nice fixtures, so it's not necessarily about the fact that they're going to be facing better attacking teams like City, and etc. etc. But I just think Brentford could, get a pretty decent haul with 4.5 defenders, really, and that's all we need. The thing is with Tanganga is that he has a lot of competition in his position. It seems like Aurier is going to be transferred out, and then I think with Doherty, one thing that will probably, if you're interested in getting Tanganga this week, I would say, first of all, watch what happens this week, because maybe you don't want to knee-jerk into him. You can probably wait one more week to decide whether Tanganga makes sense. And then also kind of watch the European Conference League game, because Tottenham Hotspur, I believe, are playing a European Conference League game. I'll show you right now. So basically, if you see here in the news, Spurs are playing in a game versus Bacos de Ferreira, and they will be playing probably, I would say, kind of a side that will be completely different from the starting 11 that will play in the weekend. So whoever plays in this game is likely going to be not playing in the weekend, and that will be a good indication for us to tell which players for Spurs are seen as starters for Nuno. Bertrand Traore out for 4 weeks. Apparently, they need to hurry up and get Watkins, Bailey starting. Yes, Bailey came off the bench and looked very good. I think Watkins seemed to be injured, so that's why he didn't come in. But obviously, in Game Week 2, we could really see a much more improved side with Bailey and Watkins hopefully coming in and starting. Do you start with Veltman or White versus Chelsea? Probably Veltman, as in terms of White versus Chelsea. Does Ben White get more games? What do you mean by get more games? I think Ben White starts probably most of the games from here on out for the rest of the season. Havertz out for Son or keep him for Arsenal? I think Havertz was, pretty much rested. I would say versus Crystal Palace had a small little feature in the Crystal Palace game, but he could attack Arsenal quite well. My issue is that then Lukaku will come in, so maybe Havertz, you're looking at maybe assists, whereas Son could probably get a goal, hopefully, versus Wolves. So I think there's if your plan in general was to go for Havertz to start with Havertz and then go for Son, I'd probably stick to that plan because I think Son has proven that he's done well in the first fixture, and we can see that repeating itself. I'm considering changing Rafinha for Benrama. Yes, I think a lot of people are kind of rumored to, or at least thinking that Rafinha could be, you know, dealing with, let's say, some COVID-related kind of isolation issues with Game Week 4, and maybe he might be avoided for one or two of the fixtures. So it could be an interesting opportunity to go Benrama, especially since he is a little bit more in form. I thought Rafinha had a pretty poor game versus Man United, to be honest. Missed the one-on-one opportunity, had a few good crosses, but yeah, I mean, apart from that, not a really good game. Lukaku brace inbound, I reckon. I mean, that's the thing. Like, look, if Lukaku gets a brace, like, are you guys going already into Lukaku, anticipating that? Because Bruno and Salah still have great fixtures, Should I drop Soufal or wait out the Leicester fixture? The thing about Soufal is that his best fixtures come in the week after the Leicester fixture, so that's going to be what you need to deliberate between. What about a free hit? I wouldn't free hit anytime soon unless your team is really weak right now, or you don't have strong players for the next week or the weeks ahead. I've heard other YouTubers mention wildcarding around Game Week 7. How come, and were you thinking along those lines? I'll tell you exactly why they want to wildcard around Game Week 7. Have a look at this. Have a look at this. What happens after Game Week 7 for Mr. Lukaku here? Pretty good, no? Pretty good. I'm okay, Tyler. How are you doing? Trent out to afford Lukaku in. I mean, I think you can still get Trent versus Burnley, Please answer my question. I need advice. Do I go Ben White or Veltman? I told you to go Veltman. I wouldn't go Ben White versus Chelsea. Can you not see the screen where I'm showing you guys the fixtures that that Lukaku has? Oh, my bad. If you guys weren't able to see. Can you guys see Lukaku's fixtures now? Sorry about that, guys. But this is basically why people are going for, or at least planning for, a Game Week 7 chip. So the idea for most teams, I think, is that fixtures get a bit tough after Game Week 4. I'll show you why. So, for example, Son has tough fixtures after Game Week 4. He has Chelsea. Okay, I wouldn't say Arsenal's a tough fixture, but Chelsea's a tough fixture. And then, like, Man United, they have good fixtures in general. So I wouldn't worry too much about them. Liverpool, similar situation there. They do play City, so this is arguably the opportunity where you move away from maybe one or two Liverpool, like your 3 Liverpool assets to 2 if you haven't already done so. But still, Liverpool, I think they're one of those top teams, and Trent is a little bit more of a set and forget type player. So I'm more interested in keeping Trent, unless Liverpool's kind of drop off with the clean sheets, or it makes sense for me to downgrade Trent to someone else. Sorry, I've kind of already covered Salah. I mean, Digne still has good kind of games until Game Week 7-ish, really. Still pretty decent games afterwards, but maybe by that time we are more interested in some other defenders. Aston Villa already have tough games after Game Week 4, but, if you're looking for someone like, let's say, Jimenez to replace him, we're saying that he probably has a very nice fixture run all the way into Game Week 7, and then you can kind of reconsider once again. So a lot of players kind of have, I would say, maybe either a roadblock at Game Week 7 or a bit of a tide turner at Game Week 7 where the fixtures are a lot nicer. Here for West Ham, I'd say they have a very mixed fixture run, and I think the beauty about the West Ham attack is very much like Leeds, where they can really truly score versus anyone. So that's a nice thing about West Ham. Should you keep Mane? I probably wouldn't say that. Calvin Phillips, I wouldn't touch him for fantasy at all. I have Salah, Bruno, but I want KDB. That's why I was thinking of a free hit. I mean, Salah and Bruno have fantastic fixtures. I just don't really see the point of getting a free hit. That's just my opinion. Do you think I should keep Mahrez? Probably for Game Week 2, yes, you should keep Mahrez. Then you can probably try to change away. I don't think Dele Alli is interesting at all. I think he's a trap. I think if you're looking at Dele Alli, like, you need to really watch him play in a full Spurs match and then consider whether he can actually have attacking potential. Because for me, he doesn't have any attacking potential. He has some attacking potential, but I would be more interested in someone like Lucas Moura in that team. If anything, I'd be more interested in a Spurs defender. They're much better, interesting 6.5 picks. Ferran Torres is, of course, a bit more volatile. Rafinha is for me, a bit more of a set and forget option, who's very interesting. Salah might miss game week 4, World Cup qualifier on September 5th, 10-day isolation period since Egypt is on a red list in the UK. Ooh, very interesting discussion point there. I think we'll have to kind of think about that, after game week 2 or 3. We'll probably have to look at that. Do I watch Arsenal fan TV? When Arsenal lose, sometimes, yes. 1992 Hip Hop JJ, thank you. Dr. Mukat, my team for next week is Ederson, Trent, Tsimikas, Maguire, Diaz, Walker, Bruno, Salah, Greenwood, Wilson, Antonio. Thoughts? This is my 3 hit because my original team had bad fixtures for 1 game week. Interesting. Okay, fine. Ederson has a nice game week, yes. Trent has a nice game week, yes. Tsimikas has a nice game week, yes. I'm not exactly sure if you want to go for a Manchester United double up. It could be a bit risky. I like Walker. But once again, Walker... I feel like Cancelo has played really well in the preseason, so there's opportunity for Cancelo to start again. That's my slight concern. Bruno, yes. Salah, yes. Greenwood, yes. Wilson, Antonio, very interesting. I need to double check Wilson's fixtures, actually. Okay, I think Wilson, Wilson probably still has potential to score versus that team, so that's interesting. I'm gonna leave it on the cheat sheet for you guys for now. I'll be commenting more deeply on the cheat sheet, so my full thoughts and opinions on players and whether I really rate some of these players will be expressed in a video tomorrow for you guys. But just going back to the chat for a second. Should I swap out Rafinha for Benrama? I think if you believe that Rafinha might not play game week 4 due to some isolation issues and the fact that Benrama simply has better fixtures, then it makes sense. I personally got Benrama from the start. So that I already made that decision between him and Benrama, and I prefer Benrama. I have similar defensive situation, all the same here, but I have a Marty instead of the Norwich defender, and I was wondering if I should replace Dean with a 4.5 or 5.0, so I can replace... Yes, that's my plan, but I probably plan to hold on to one transfer 1 week. Jacob or Jakob, I don't know how to pronounce your name correctly, but that's probably my plan. Probably double transfer after I once again reassess Dean for game week 2. If Salah missed game week 4, I think switching now for City will be good. True, but I mean, do you really want to go KDB with 12 points? I mean, it's a tricky one for me because I feel like I'm not exactly sure if Pep is going to exhaust him for 90 minutes. He might be eased back into action. It seems like he kind of brought Kevin De Bruyne out as a bit of a kind of desperation move. I don't know if Kevin De Bruyne is fully fit. Should I replace Barnes for Benrama? I think it could be interesting. Pep hasn't put Cancelo left back in quite a long time, I think. So that's the worry. But I mean, I do take your point. Walker, when he's fit, has actually displaced Cancelo from the right back position. Should I keep Mahrez or switch him to Son? I think... Yes, Pep Roulette's definitely an issue, but I feel like you probably picked Mahrez on purpose, right, to try and attack Norwich, so maybe see it through, and then maybe move to Son after that, where Son has 2 nice game weeks. Thoughts on my team? Sanchez, Simicans, Dini, Soufal, Target, Bruno, Mane. I think the only weakness in your team is Soufal and Mane. The rest of the players in your team are pretty... Sorry, not Soufal, but Target. Target and Mane are the weaknesses in your team, in my opinion. Do you think it's worth getting Simicas in for 2 weeks until Robertson is back or not? Well, I mean, if you're getting him now, you're going to get him versus Burnley, and then you're getting him versus Chelsea, and I don't think he has a great game versus Chelsea. I think Chelsea could score versus Liverpool. Keep Rafinha or get someone else. I think like Benrama is the only logical way to move out of Rafinha, but I can completely understand you sticking with Rafinha. You know, he's not a bad player at all. Don't knee-jerk on him too quickly. Thoughts on my team? Sanchez, Simicas. I think I've responded to that already, Pedri. So, yeah. But, I mean, Mukat, I think just going back to your point of Walker, it's an interesting punt. Because the thing is, I just feel like when Walker plays, he doesn't really attack that often. So you might as well just go for Diaz. But I think Diaz might be a bit more expensive, right? Walker's probably 5.5. Is that it? That's a tough situation. Best 4.0 defender except Simica. So I think if you look at my kind of list here, I have Livramento as actually the second most interesting one. So Kiana Hoover, I think he's interesting too, but we kind of have to wait and see with Wolves. I'm not exactly sure if he's absolutely nailed on, whereas Livramento could be an out of position player potentially. These are two interesting players for me at 4.0, but the 4.0 options aren't really plentiful. Honestly, they're not great. So I know you have Diaz in your team. I'd probably, I don't know if you want to double up on City in that game defensively. It's nice though. It's a nice fixture. I think you can see my screen in terms of the cheat sheet, right? So I'm just showing your cheat sheet in terms of the 4.0 defenders. So these are the players I'm kind of rating as some of the better defenders. My plan with Dean is to watch him for one more week and then see if I want to double transfer him out. And also, I'm planning to also have a look at Ings as well. How about Sarr as a Rafinha replacement? I like Sarr, but I still think I prioritize Benrama over Sarr. You have Grealish and Mahrez. Who should you take out? I probably take Mahrez out. Is 102 points good? 102 points is fantastic, I think. Where do you rank right now in the world? The screen isn't clear. I'll try zoom in a bit for you, sorry. So these are kind of my ranking of the 4.0 defenders. I think the thing with Amarte is I can see him getting benched already. So that's why I've set him as a void for now. So that's how I feel about that. I think it's blurred on everyone's screen. You might be watching on your phone, so I guess the quality might be a bit low. Apologies about that. It's just sometimes a bit hard to cover all the players on one screen, but I'll try to make sure that we can capture it as good as possible for the YouTube video that I plan to make in terms of the cheat sheets. Maybe it might be better if I just split them out into individual sections. I'll try to do that for the YouTube video that I'm going to make. This is the first year I've taken FPL seriously. Never enjoyed watching football more. Love and love the tips. Top of my friends' leagues. Awesome. I'm really happy about that for you. Honestly, I think watching football actually really helps with just making picks. Vestergaard to Livramento. Do you already have Vestergaard in your team? Sorry. Should I keep Mahrez for one more game and then take him out and bring in Bruno or Lukaku? Yes, I think that's very reasonable, Mohammed. Because yes, that probably is a great fixture for Mahrez to attack, and then if that was probably in your plan in the first place, then it makes sense. Thoughts on Tierney when the games look favorable? I think Tierney is clearly Arsenal's actually probably best attacking option. So yes, he makes a lot of sense, and he's a good 5.0 player. And you'll see that, for example, in my cheat sheet that I do rate Tierney very highly. Still, you know, I still think he's a good 5.0 defender for sure. I still think he's a good choice. Should I be worried about Sanchez and Brighton's defense? So I mean Sanchez on the set pieces on the corners look terrible. Pedri, that's really good, honestly. As long as you're, I think, above 2.5 mil, you're basically in the top half of the world. And you can only get better from here on out, you know? Who's your first pick for Chelsea LB, Chilwell or Alonso? I mean, my first pick will be Chilwell, but it seems like right now that Chilwell is suffering from fatigue. And it seems like Alonso is the priority right now, if you're asking me. With Lukaku up front, they could be even more interesting. Maybe buying both is a valid strategy. I feel like, you know, you're putting 11.5 million on punting, and it's the same as kind of going for like a double City back, like a double right back in City, and it's just if I show you the points, for example, that was earned last season, right, by like Cancelo. Okay, this is not great. Sorry, I think Cancelo. I have a little bit of another cheat sheet as well that I will be showing you guys in a second. So Cancelo earned 138 points last season. and Walker earned 91 points. But the issue, of course, is that what ends up happening is you only get them once per game week. And I just feel like ultimately when we add their points up, we're saying that's 220 points. 220 points, you know, for players that are worth 11.5 million. Could be interesting. It could be interesting. It's tough though, isn't it? Because I feel like that definitely affects the way you space your teams, because usually people have some very solid defenders, and you know, you could really have someone who's nailed on. Let's say Chelsea have better opportunities at have giving you nailed on defenders, and some of the teams have become better defensive sides this year, in my opinion. You know, sides like Man U will probably push on. So I think it's a tough decision. It's a big punt as well, and especially it probably precludes you from going for a very strong, maybe like Man City triple up if they finally find their form. My opinion for Ferran Torres is that he's more of a development player, so I think he needs to continue developing as a player, and I'm not really too interested in him, you know, as an FPL asset. Gordon Chow says Bruno. Yep, I'm a Brew Yes player, to be honest. Doctor, I would say Antonio has a greater chance. Do you think Benrama? I think Antonio is always the one with the greater chances to score, but there's nothing that should stop you from picking the both of them, to be honest. If you believe that West Ham can beat Leicester quite, or at least, you know, score goals. Should you use triple captain on Salah versus Burnley? I think it's a tough one. I probably wouldn't. I think he's had a bit of a tough record versus Burnley, and Burnley do really try to defend the game even if they're struggling. You know, they're not exactly the most ambitious attacking side, and I think they're happy to kind of have a good kind of goal deficit and kind of take that and run with it. So that's my kind of opinion on Burnley. Is it okay if you screenshot the cheat sheet? The cheat sheet will be available on the YouTube video. If you want to share it to friends or other people, I would really prefer if you kind of let people know that I created it. I'm happy for you to share it as long as you kind of also provide, like, let's say a link to my content as well, if that's all right, or you kind of reference me. Thoughts of Kane to City. I mean, Kane to City is a fantastic option. You know, I probably would have to think about how I adjust my side to that. Early wild card or save it for double game week 16. I mean, I think wait and see, right? So if your team seems to be doing fantastic by game week 7, you have opportunities and you have options to kind of go to Lukaku without sacrificing a lot of things, and it makes sense to go to Lukaku at the time easily, then save it for double game week 16. But if you're encountering issues, injuries come up, and yeah, it's fine. So here's the cheat sheet, but it's going to be on the YouTube video tomorrow, so you might have it in better quality tomorrow. It's not fully updated yet, so that's why it's a bit of a provisional thing right now. Thoughts if Kane to City gets close? Yeah. Kane, because his price might go up by 1. I don't think. The thing is, a lot of people have actually transferred out Kane, so I don't see his price rising anytime soon. If he gets finalized, then that will be a different situation. But I think you'll have time to adjust to that. You know, stay on tabs with the FPL statistics website, and you probably won't kind of miss the price rise if Kane really does move. And ultimately, Kane is so well priced at 12.5. I can't see him moving until, let's say, he scores his first goal for City. Thank you very much, O, as well, for the shout out. But yeah, if this is your kind of first time on the YouTube video, or you've recently watched our stuff, the plan this week going forwards is to kind of make a video on kind of hidden gems, reviewing some of the best performers of this week and whether I actually think they're good transfer options, and then kind of also dealing with the cheat sheet as well, kind of explaining my selections for why some players have risen and fallen, etc. and etc. If you have 3 City players and Kane transferred to City, will you have? I think you will actually have 4. But why you want to have 4 City players is and play such an aggressive Pep roulette. I don't know. um, but yeah, that's how I feel about things right now, to be honest. Do you guys think Kane and City will happen by the end of, let's say, the next 2 weeks? What do you guys think about that kind of situation there? Also, would really appreciate if you guys would kind of like and subscribe for the video. That would really help the algorithm as well, just in general, so that we kind of reach out to more people in the future and things like that. You would need to already own Kane before the transfer to the City occurred. Yep, exactly. Yep. And you would not be able to make another transfer after that until you dropped one. Ooh, that's a fair point, Jimmy. Yep, that's a good point. But also, like, honestly, I really can't see a situation where you are going to go for 4 Man City players. First of all, I think that would greatly imbalance your side in terms of money. And second of all, it's just tough. Honestly, sell Dean because I don't see Everton getting clean sheets, and against Leeds really don't score. That's a fair point. That's a fair point, to be honest. But it's just tough to kind of decide what to go for, especially if, let's say, Ings disappoints me next week. I don't know exactly what to do in that situation. I thought Everton actually defended quite well versus Southampton, to be honest. Good midfielder under 7 million. Rafinha is a good one. Benrama is a good one. I still think Barnes is a good one, honestly. I know people are really low about his kind of somewhat lackadaisical performance versus Wolves, but I'm still interested in Barnes as a player. I'd probably rate him third. I'm captaining Bruno this week, Josh. Luke Shaw. What was the question? Between these 3, which ones would you bench? Tony, Benrama, Barnes. I'd probably bench Barnes, I think. I think I might bench Barnes there. What was my game week score? My game week score was 113. And you can have a look at my team here. Oh, sorry. Here's my team. You think King will stay now? I think I mean, there's a large possibility that they'll stay because it seems like Spurs won't want to budge on that price. I think Mane is both a gamble and a bad pick. How about that? I'm kidding, but I mean, like, the thing with Mane is, like, he's still a little bit too overpriced, and ultimately, Salah has proven over the last few years that he's simply the better performer, both on FPL and just statistically in the PL, and I just think it's not that interesting, to go for Mane at the start of the season. Like, I wouldn't try to be too cute, it's like where you kind of make the most of your differential is like players that aren't Bruno, that aren't Salah, it's not about changing Salah and Bruno and changing the game there. It's if Bruno and Salah have had two fantastic years and Bruno 1.5, why are you suddenly expecting that they're going to have a really poor year, That's also why, for example, when I saw the opportunity to get Tsimikas in my team, I thought, you know what, I'm going straight for Son. You got 1-2 triple cap. That's still a very, very good start. Well done on that. If Grealish is 100, Kane is definitely 150 plus. Yep, agreed. The thing about Man City is they could pay that, though. When DSL or hold, I'm leaning towards sell, but if you really want to hold, I would say maybe just watch out this game week and see it out. I mean, one thing that does affect Maguire as a comparison is, of course, Maguire was pre-COVID as a transfer, right? So I think we've seen a bit of a deflation in terms of transfer prices, but I agree with you. Kane is definitely worth 150 plus, and that's why Spurs have valuated him as such as well. Spurs look strong without Kane, to be honest. I think if they sell him, it will help them improve. I mean, it'll definitely help my my home and Son pick for sure. I don't know if they'll necessarily improve, but I mean, I get what you mean by in terms of, you know, they could strengthen the depth in their team and other things like that. Maguire was worth it. Absolutely, he is. I mean, he's a talismanic figure for both England and Man United, to be honest. You could see they really missed him at the end of the the season when he was injured for a bit, right? And also missing from the Europa Cup final. Yes, I know. Dean definitely has good games after game week 3. I mean, ultimately, let's have a look at maybe Leeds' kind of fixtures, right, from last season. I know Leeds beat Everton twice last year, but once again, new manager, different things could change. Let's have a look at their fixtures again. It's not like Leeds were scoring every week last season, mind you. Didn't score here, didn't score here. Didn't score here. Didn't score here. 6, 7. Last season we saw that Leeds were very strong at home. So near the back half of the season. You can see they got a lot more draws near the back half, but it was mostly these kind of games here, like home versus Spurs, fantastic result. Home versus United, fantastic result. Home versus Liverpool, fantastic result. Home versus Sheffield, winning there. So they found a really good like home run at the end of the season, which was what was most impressive about Leeds to me. They didn't start very well in the beginning of the season at home, but obviously it ended up averaging out. Leeds do score a lot. So do West Ham United. I mean, Soufal is probably still more interesting than Leeds. Just saying. Than Firpo, sorry, right now. Definitely going to be a hero for every team if he pulls this off. Absolutely. I mean, he would be rinsing them, but they would also need to get their transfers quickly, right? Because you need to get them settled in as well. Simicast on the bench for Stones, you think it's a good deal? I kind of want to know who your other defenders are. In terms of who's going to be on your starting lineup alongside Stones. Yeah, because I agree with Rob 18. You know, why not start both? You start Shaw and Arnold already. Fair point. I think that makes sense. You can go with Stones. Lucas, Sarr, or Rafinha for next few game weeks as Gundagan is injured. Do you not have Benrama, or do you already have Benrama in your team? If you already have Benrama in your team, then I'd probably go with either Sarr or Rafinha, probably. My backup goalie is Steele from Brighton. Nothing interesting there. There's not many options there. Hey Harold, how are you doing? Hi bro, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire. I still rate Luke Shaw a bit more. He probably can get a few assists over the season that will probably outpoint the amount of goals Maguire will score with his head. So that's how I feel about that, Yassine. You have Benrama? Yeah, okay. I think maybe have a look at Rafinha then, maybe, or Sarr. I think I prioritize them over Lucas, I would say. Who should I get as a midfielder in game week 3? I kind of need to know who you have as a midfield first, if that's all right. Who do I bench, Barnes or Cresswell? Interesting pick. What do you guys think? Do we bench Barnes or Cresswell? I'd probably say bench Cresswell. I think Leicester can score. And then are we saying Cresswell will score again? Probably not. Bowen's an interesting one, but if you already have Barnes, then you know, I mean, sorry, if you already have Benrama in your team, then you don't really want to double up or triple up on West Ham attack, right? I'm holding Gross for this week, and oh, okay. You swapped Harrison for Benrama in the last 5 minutes before game week 1. You're proud of yourself. Well done, well done. You have Rafinha, Salah, Bruno, and Bissouma. Okay, and Greenwood. Game week 3. So I mean, game week 3. Let's say Salah has a bit of a weak game. Rafinha, who does he have in game week 3? How come I forgot this? Okay, that's a nice kind of load fixture for Rafinha, to be honest. I honestly wouldn't touch your midfield. Honestly, I think your midfield's very strong for game week 3. I mean, Crespo gets crosses and a lot of assists, yes, but I mean, Barnes can definitely also score versus West Ham. You know, it's a tough one. Do I lose 4 points to get Son for this weekend? I think Wolves actually looked like a very respectable side, so I probably would stay away from going -4 to go for Son. That's probably how I feel about that. We're holding Trossard, and if he blanks this week, I'm gonna get rid if it's right. Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Get rid is totally fine. I don't think it's even offensive. If you already have Greenwood, would you look to change him? If you have Greenwood, then I don't think Greenwood is a must-have, but I think if you have him, then keep him until Cavani seems to find his place back in the team. Because I like Greenwood right now when he's playing striker, but I might not like Greenwood so much when he's moved to right wing. But think about this, guys. Like Greenwood can still play in the starting lineup. Greenwood can play right wing, Sancho can play left wing, Cavani can play striker, Bruno can play cam. I guess one of you guys were probably thinking, okay, what about Pogba? And that's a fair question. At that point, then maybe we will see. Let's have a look at what Ole plays this week, because there could be a possibility where Greenwood keeps Cavani on the bench. El Ghazi to Benrama. Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think El Ghazi, I don't know if you were watching the videos before, we started doing fantasy videos, but like recent fantasy videos that you might have started kind of following us from, but I think Benrama is definitely always the pick for me, because El Ghazi was set to be rotated regardless. Have Mahrez swap with Son or not? I think you still ride out Mahrez game week 2. Say Maximum is probably one of the greatest traps. Do not touch him, please. I mean, you're talking about a player who's priced as a forward and doesn't score many goals and could maybe get you 1 or 2 assists every, let's say, 8 games. It's not worth it. And Pogba can't stop playing at all. I think Pogba, in the form that he's in, obviously he's probably set. Let's have a look at just what happens when, because I think the interesting thing will be what happens when, let's say, he subs Cavani on. We'll probably get a bit more of a picture. You have 3 defenders valued at 4. Ooh, huge risk there. Tsimikas, Duffy, and Amarte. It seems like Duffy and Amarte are probably going to be rotated out before Tsimikas. The other 2 are Digne and Shaw. I was thinking probably take Digne and Duffy off. But, I mean, don't you think Amarte will be subbed off by Vestergaard as well? I don't think Saint Maximum is a smart differential pick, guys, honestly. You're talking about 6.5 striker. A 6.5 striker who last season scored 3 goals and got 4 assists. In limited minutes, yes, because he was injured at times, but even if we extrapolate that, right, let's say we double that, he plays 3,000 minutes. Are we really saying that you want to have a 6-goal, 8-assist striker? And that's kind of being really, really nice to him as well, in my opinion. I don't think he's much of a scorer, You have to nerf the kind of goals because he's a striker now. Simply put, you want to have strikers who are scoring much more consistently. I think Tony is way better than him right now. I know Tony blanked in the first game week, but you can't knee-jerk like that. Thoughts on Ole roulette, especially with I don't think there's much roulette, right? I think Martial's clearly lower in priority. I think, if you have Bruno like me, you're fine. If you have Greenwood, I still think you're fine. I still think Greenwood starts. It's until really Cavani comes back and we see what happens with the substitutions, then that we can make a decision. I would probably hold Greenwood until the end of game week 3. I think Benrama could rise in price, yes. What about saving your hit this week? Yes, I do plan on saving my transfer. Joe Willock should hit the ground running. He could hit the ground running, but I do think his form last year was exceptional, right? His form was exceptionally high. I'm not exactly sure if he'll repeat that same type of form. Yes, I mean, Saint Maxim is a wonderful footballer, wonderful technician, wonderful kind of dribbler. But as a FPL forward, I'm not exactly sure if you want him in your team. I mean, when we're talking big chances, right? We're talking about expected. We're talking about expected goals and shot creating actions, right? So Saint Maximum is obviously up there, but this is exactly what I mean with Saint Maximum. He's more of a shot creator, and then in terms of expected goals, I mean, I wouldn't put him up there. You don't see him anywhere near this expected goals list. Callum Wilson's a bit up there, but that's a chance created by Saint Maximum. You know, for me, it's about the consistency of the opportunities created, and simply put as well, you have to recognize that West Ham are honestly a very poor defense. They're a very poor defense, and it's not going to be that easy, I think, for St. Maximin to create week on week. And you're asking for a striker to create at a 6.5 price. What do you think about DCL 5 shots in the bank? I'm sorry, what do you mean by 5 shots in the bank? Willock, but then I have to choose between playing Benrama and Willock. You're thinking about taking out ESR for Willock. I think Mbeumo is more interesting than Willock, to be honest. But yeah, as I said, Dr. Mookat, you have to look at, for me, I think West Ham are a poor defense, and then I still think Newcastle are not a great attacking side. A lot of teams scored, 3-4 goals for West Ham last season. It just so happens that West Ham can outscore most teams right now. I mean, we'll wait and see. I really don't think St. Maximin can do that, but we'll wait and see. I'm happy to be wrong. If you have him in your team, then he can prove you right, and then I'll be here with pie on my face, basically. Aston Villa's defense is pretty weak too. Agree with that. Yep, I don't disagree. 5 shots in the box, is he necessary? I think so. Yes. The team is crossing, hundreds and hundreds of balls. He will get headers into the box. Do you think Sancho will start this week? Probably, yes, I think so. I thought Dan James is a bit of a tactical option that Ole likes to employ versus Leeds, because he has very good work rate, and he kind of presses Leeds and their ability to play out of the back very well. But then, versus sides that aren't Leeds, I can see Sancho already starting. It really depends on whether Ole thinks he's fit, Sim Castahover, potentially week 3. That's interesting, yeah. But then you still have maybe some tough fixtures then. Varane's price is 5.5. Varane's price is 5.5. I think. Yeah, he's 5.5. Thoughts on Vardy / Lukaku as a premium centre forward? I mean, they are premium centre forwards. I think the issue with Vardy is sometimes he could be potentially subbed off at times. He has also been dealing with some injury issues. I think Lukaku is a much more premium centre forward. I know people did well with Vardy scoring a goal last week, but I don't know if it's super consistent, basically. He's the type of player who right now is very efficient. He can score very interesting kind of goals at the near post, but I do think Lukaku is the better option, and I think his team will create more chances for him. I think Leicester are a bit more timid sometimes with chances. If Varane is the same price as Varane, getting Wan-Bissaka is a better choice. I agree. I'm just not too high on doubling up on Man United defense. I think the Man United defense is good, but sometimes they still leak in some goals here and there. But yeah, you're right. Varane is 5.5. Anyways, I do plan on probably ending the live stream in the next 5 minutes. How are we supposed to fit Lukaku with Salah and Bruno with Trent and the others? I think it'll be hard, to be honest. And that's, to be honest, why people don't have Lukaku in their plans in the immediate future. I think the plan in general is to maybe address Lukaku by game week 7 and think about that. That's, I think, how people like to play. And I agree with Joe that there is a possibility that Lukaku may not hit the ground running. I mean, it's huge expectations to think one, that someone will hit the ground running and then also hit the ground running versus some very, very good teams. When you compare it to Salah and Bruno, they simply just have better fixtures, and sometimes that's what you should prioritize, right? Because FPL is not about having a set and forget team all season. If it was, then Lukaku would be in my team all season, but Lukaku will have tough fixtures to deal with, and he needs some time to gel with the side, potentially. He's obviously a fantastic player. I'm not dismissing that, but simply put, we have some other fantastic players that we have in our teams, and there's no necessary reason to kind of swap them. In terms of right now, Salah and Bruno, I don't really like making calls about Game Week 7 and Game Week 1, you know? So for me, it's more about me watching them every week, making decisions based on that. You know, we could see Man United hit a bit of a bit more dull form. Liverpool as well. It depends. People could be injured. I don't really have any set plans right now in terms of transferring them out. I could even change, if you look at the structure of my team, I could also change Son into Lukaku. You brought in Demarai Gray as a differential and he blanked. Should I look to take him out for an alternative like Sarr this week and Benrama game week 4? I think Benrama is already a great differential already, right? So if you want to go to Benrama now, let's look at Benrama simply, right? So Benrama gets to play versus Leicester. Keep in mind they beat Leicester twice last season. And then they're playing versus Crystal Palace and Southampton, which look like some pretty poor defensive sides right now. I know Crystal Palace played versus Chelsea, so that's a different thing. But they're still getting to play at home, and I think Benrama's in fantastic form. So there's even an argument for me to say that Benrama could be put in Game Week 2. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning into the stream. If this was your first time kind of introduced to the channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe as well. And just to kind of give you an update on the content going forwards, I'm going to be releasing this clean sheet for you guys, this cheat sheet, and I'll be explaining exactly why I have players in specific positions, why I've changed players, why they've fallen in my rankings, why they've risen in my rankings, and many things like that. I'll also be kind of discussing exactly why they belong here, why I think you should avoid some players right now, Amartey being a kind of key option, for example, and other things like that. So the plan going forwards really is to produce content as well. Looking at hidden gems, I'll be looking at a bit of statistic, like tactical analysis as well. So Mbemo is a player that is very interesting because he blanked in game week 1, but he interested me very much. I think he had opportunities to actually score maybe 1 or 2 goals versus Arsenal. And there's opportunities to say at a 5.5 price, he could do very well. Obviously, Dennis was the £5 striker who did extremely well with a 1 goal, 1 assist performance. He's now with a knock. Probably will come back for the next game week. But, you know, there's definitely opportunities for us to look at hidden gems. So I'll be covering that in a video very shortly with you guys. And then I'll also be reviewing, you know, the top performers, whether you should knee-jerk into them or whether you should kind of hold the tide. So a lot of people have been asking questions about Mahrez, about Barnes, and things like that. Yeah, I can have a look at your squad very quickly, Tesla, if you wanna type it down really quick. So, but I'll be covering those kind of things in future videos as well. Asking general questions, like answering general questions, and then looking at whether you should knee jerk into specific players. No worries. But yeah, I agree with what Tarub18 says in general. I think those are better picks that you've suggested in general. And any of those three, in my opinion, would be more improved than Demarai Gray. Because I think Sarr is clearly playing in a much more attacking role. I think Demarai Gray is a bit more of a supportive winger in the system, the same as Andros Townsend. Whereas the key focal points are going to be DCL and then Richarlison and then Digne as well. Hey Khalid, how are you doing? You've caught us at the near end of the stream, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask ahead just before I pop off. Yeah. I mean, feel free to. You guys can always message me on Twitter as well. Sometimes I am free on the platform. Should I hold white or get another def budget 4.5? I would probably hold white for now, but is it an immediate priority for you to get a 4.5 defender? Do you not have any other kind of aspects of your squad that you kind of want to change? Because I think the idea with Ben White is that you were holding for him for game week 4 onwards anyways, right? How long should I give Rafinha before moving to a Sarr/Benrama, etc.? I mean, I think you could probably give him the Everton game, right? Because that would have been a good opportunity where I think Everton were a fixture that they struggled with or actually dealt very well with last season twice. And if Rafinha doesn't really deliver and he has a similarly poor performance like he did versus Man United, then you can probably look at moving away from him. Joe says, love the content so far, mate. Found you during the Euros and been watching the channel since. Thank you so much, Joe, as well. Thank you for the nice words. Tesla. So what's the actual easiest way to look at someone's team? Typing their username. Would I be able to find you in this league here? Oh, great. Okay. Right, okay, let's have a look at this team here. I don't actually think this is a poor team, to be honest. I think the only issue really was going for Sancho in game week 1, which is, of course, a huge risk. You know, I think it would have made more sense to go for someone like Greenwood at the start. The rest of the team makes a lot of sense. I think... I'm not exactly sure if you have money in the bank right now, but I think there's opportunity for you to potentially stick with Sancho for one more week and then maybe do a double transfer out so that you can address maybe two issues in your team. Because right now I can't see, if you don't have 0.5 in the bank, then I think there are going to be some issues, you know, moving into someone like Son, because I think Sancho is so close to Son that ideally that's who you should go to, but I don't know if you have the money to move into Son right now. Yeah, in terms of next week, would you start Ayling versus Everton? Potentially. You'd prefer Ayling over Digne? Is that what you're saying? Khalid says, okay, Sanchez, Shaw, Simicast, AA, Barnes, Rafinha, Salah, BF, Tony Ings. Who's BF? BF. Am I crazy? Bruno Fernandes, of course. Tony Ings, Antonio Foster, Brownhill, and Marty Ayling. I think you can think about transferring Barnes, but you can also just hold. That's my opinion, I think. Yeah, I think, Thomas, that makes sense because you can attack Palace and Southampton. Ashraf says, my team is Simicast, Shaw, Trent, Barnes, Bruno, Salah, Greenwood, Antonio Ings, Tony. 102 points, 0.5 the bank. So I honestly wouldn't change anything right now. It's once again similar thing where I would suggest in general probably watching Barnes for one more week and then changing Barnes later. Concerns in my mind with Salah, Bruno, Sancho, Rafinha, and Bissouma. I mean, I don't know why you should be concerned with Salah and Bruno. These guys are consistent players. I think the issue is just addressing how you move away from Sancho. So for me, you can maybe watch Sancho for one more week, and if he doesn't deliver, then why not go for Son and Benrama, right? Because look at this, right? So if you let's say if you play Sancho and he has a good performance for Southampton, or even if he doesn't, right? If he doesn't have a good performance for Southampton, why not use Son, attack these fixtures here, attack Watford, attack Crystal Palace, and then with Benrama, you can then attack these fixtures. You can attack Crystal Palace and Southampton. So for me, that's what you can do. Maybe hold your transfer for one more week and then go for a double pivot there without having to go -4. Would you transfer Ings to Calvert-Lewin? Not right now. I still think that there's a good opportunity for Ings to score versus Newcastle. So that's my opinion there. But I do think Calvert-Lewin is a very strong transition. So if you're feeling a bit knee-jerky, you liked Calvert-Lewin's performance, you didn't like Ings, then I think you can do it. But what I will say is that Villa probably still need... You know, they needed time to get Bailey fit. They needed time to get Buendia probably gelling with the rest of the team. They needed Watkins really on the pitch as well. So that would really have been the question. So I think you probably give them the benefit of the doubt with Newcastle before you move back into Calvert-Lewin, because I saw Everton create a lot of chances for Calvert-Lewin, and I saw much less for Ings. But then the thing is, Ings could have different pieces around him next week, and he could perform and improve. West Ham playing Leicester next, so I'm not confident in Benrama. I mean, did you know that West Ham beat Leicester both times last season? That's for when Robbo's back, by the way. Yeah, definitely. Oh, Steve, yeah, that's awesome. 115 points, amazing. Well done. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have Ings right now. I think people seem to have knee-jerked into Richarlison. Oh, well, I wasn't responding to you, Steve. I was just responding to the Rockman over there. Um, not saying that I think Leicester isn't a tough fixture. They definitely are. I just think that if you're watching West Ham play right now, I mean, they're a fantastic side, and they've really played, lights out in the preseason, and they've continued that form. And I feel like they found a structure there with Benrama almost playing as a 10 at times, even playing as a kind of a false striker. He's playing fantastic. Trent, Shaw, Salah, Bruno, Benrama, Greenwood, Ings, Antonio. I mean, that type of squad, 1992 hip hop. Jay, I would probably hold your transfer, and I think you can find a way out of either Greenwood or Ings, who are probably going to give you a bit of troubles in the future. Can you answer my last question, please, mate? Reese Simicast. Yep, sure. Sorry. Do you think Simicast to over Livermento is a waste of a transfer in 3-4, as I don't need to upgrade him with Trent? Yeah, I mean, if you have Shaw and Veltman and 8 lane rotating, you don't need to touch him. You don't need to touch him. That's a waste of a transfer for me. I agree. Yep, don't touch that. Anyways, guys, so that's going to be the end of the live stream. Thank you so much for joining me in this kind of impromptu live stream. It's been a pleasure having you all. Much more content and much more serious videos looking into statistical analysis as well in the future. And I'll definitely be even showing kind of little clips and freeze frames of showing you why some players will be hidden gems in the future. But thank you guys for joining us this week. And if you can like and subscribe, that'll be fantastic. And I expect to see you guys very soon. Have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream or in the next video. Take care, guys.